the operation of the Board of Historic Resources. This meeting is also being presented virtually. Deputy Director Williams, would you please proceed with roll call?
Yes, Attorney Powell.
Here.
Dr. Rutherford.
Here.
Dr. Spivey.
Here.
Towns.
Here.
Foskett.
Here.
Hudson. Chair Giorgiani.
Here. Thank you. The Department of Historic Resources, the Board of Historic Resources, and the State Review Board acknowledge the Indigenous peoples of Virginia and express its gratitude for their continued stewardship of her lands and waterways over many generations. We acknowledge the free and enslaved Africans and their descendants whose labors and contributions on behalf of the Commonwealth have long been overlooked. We commit ourselves to meaningful engagement with all Virginians, past and present, as we strive to fulfill our charge as stewards of Virginia's long and rich history. The Virginia Board of Historic Resources is an official policy-making board of the Commonwealth of Virginia created by the Code of Virginia. Its policies are implemented by the Department of Historic Resources, which day in and day out labors on behalf of our irreplaceable resources in the interest of the citizens of this Commonwealth. The board is charged primarily with the responsibility for designating historic landmarks of local, statewide, and national significance, establishing historic preservation practices for the care and management of our Virginia historic landmarks, designating state-recognized historic districts and archaeological sites and zones, approving historical highway markers, reviewing programs and services of the agency, and making recommendations to the director of DHR and the governor regarding programs and services, and in order to preserve important sites and buildings in perpetuity. And finally, accepting voluntarily granted gifts of preservation easements over historic properties to the Commonwealth. The governor of Virginia selects members of the board from volunteer and professional leaders of Virginia's history, preservation, and museum communities. Votes taken during this meeting are official actions of the Commonwealth of Virginia Board of Historic Resources. We are joined today by Andrew Tarn and Wes Morgan of the Office of the Attorney General, DHR staff, and the agency director, Julie Langland. I now invite my fellow board members to introduce themselves, starting with Mr. Towns.
Okay, my name is Martin Towns. I'm from King William, Virginia. I am the deputy butler at the Executive Mansion and also the Executive Mansion historian.
For Pollard, I'm the head of Transportation and Land Use work at Southern Environmental Law Center and a resident of Chesterfield.
Amy Giorgiani, Falls Church, Virginia.
Ken Rutherford, professor of political science at James Madison University in Harrisonburg.
Ashley Spivey, I live in King William County and I work as an anthropologist and I'm a member of the Pamunkey Indian tribe.
Jamie Boskett, I'm the president and CEO of the Virginia Museum of History and Culture of Richmond, Virginia.
Thank you. So we will now go into our public comment portion of this meeting for under highway markers and easements. The Virginia Board of Historic Resources desires to hear the viewpoints of interested citizens, but also needs to conduct its business in an orderly and efficient manner. Therefore, the next portion of the meeting provides an opportunity for general public comment on items not formally part of the promulgated or adopted agenda. This portion of the board meeting is intended as an opportunity to identify matters of interest and concern. And the role of the Virginia Board of Historic Resources is to listen and potentially provide direction to staff or follow-up, and not to formally respond to speakers or take official action on matters presented. If matters broached during the public comment portion of the agenda seem to warrant board attention and discussion and are within the board's authority, then those matters may be styled as a formal agenda item for subsequent board meetings. In consideration of the time constraints associated with regular board agenda items, speakers during the public comment period are requested to limit their presentation to a maximum of 3 minutes. Upon recognition by the chair, we ask that speakers clearly state their name and then directly address the comments to the board. The board also asks that speakers refrain from making reference to specific individuals. As a reminder, board members will not officially respond to speakers or take action on matters presented. At this time, we invite any members of the public who signed in either in person or online to offer their public comments. I do not see a list of those present. Is there anybody online?
If no one online.
No one online. Jen. We've got one. Okay, thanks. If you could come up real quick, and just state your name and you'll set the clock for 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is John Dorman, Richmond here. First, I want to thank the department for a great job to get on my mother's church up in Dillman, Virginia, Chief Cornerstone Baptist Church, a year before last. And there was a lot of controversy about it where they got put up on Route 15, which was really great because there's more traffic on 15 than on Bell Creek Road in Dillman, Virginia. Today, I want to basically talk about my church here in Richmond, Wall Street Baptist Church, which was founded in 1875. And the Reverend William Troy, he was a really interesting person because of the fact that he worked with the Underground Railroad with Harriet Tubman and all of that crew. And basically, he was born in Essex, Virginia here, and then he moved to Ohio because of controversy, different things. And in Ohio, when he went to the church, the pastor and the minister in Ohio was actually selling slaves through the church. So he moved, and family moved to Canada, where he stayed for a while. He came back to Virginia basically in probably 1866 and did a lot of preaching. But he founded the Moore Street Missionary Baptist Church, which next year we'll be celebrating the 150th anniversary of our church. And his son, which was William Troy Jr., he was a doctor in the early 1900s down in Franklin, Virginia, and basically Portsmouth and in the whole Tidewater area. And that was really accomplishment for a Black person to be a doctor down in that area at that particular time. Now,
You got 1 minute, please. 1 minute, please.
okay, basically, I was baptized in Moore Street Baptist Church in 1958. I was 11 years old. And I've been there ever since. And when I came back from Vietnam in 1969, I went back to help my scoutmaster, and he took off and got a second job. And I became scoutmaster in 1970. And 44 years later, I stepped down as scoutmaster. I've been at the church for a long time, and we have a really historic church. Virginia Randolph, who started at school on Northside, she was a member of our church, and you probably know some history about Virginia Randolph. And that's my basic statement. I just got this board here that explained everything about William Troy himself and his family. And basically, this particular picture, I had to dig this picture up because Wikipedia didn't have a picture at all. So I sent them this picture a couple of weeks ago, and it took me a couple of months to dig this picture. Now archived at our church. But basically, we will be celebrating 150 years next year.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming today. All right. So I believe that concludes then our portion of the public comment period of the meeting. And so this public comment portion of the meeting is now closed. I would like to introduce Dr. Jennifer Lowe, who will present the historical highway marker portion of today's business.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jennifer Lutz. I'm the Highway Markers Program Manager here at DHR. And I'll be presenting our marker agenda for today. Our marker editorial committee approved all text at its meeting about 2 weeks ago. So we'll start off with the 7 new markers. Beginning with Mahomes Cavern in Southampton County. Mahomes Cavern was built about 1796 across from the Southampton County Courthouse, a center of political and social activity for more than a century. It served as a refuge for citizens and as an encampment for soldiers at the time of the insurrection led by Nat Turner in 1831. Fielding J. Mahone operated the tavern from 1841 to 1855, and his son, William Mahone, who later became a railroad magnate, Confederate Major General, leader of the biracial Readjuster Party, and a U.S. Senator, lived in the tavern as a youth. John J. Tinkerton, a five-term congressman from New York, also lived in the building as a child in the 1860s. River Hill Baptist Church in Grayson County. This church is among the oldest African-American congregations in southwestern Virginia. Emancipated people founded River Hill between 1868 and 1873, aided by the missionary efforts of local white Baptists who had supported the Union during the Civil War. In 1873, River Hill became a charter member of the New Covenant Baptist Association, an organization of African-American churches in northwestern North Carolina and southwestern Virginia. A school and a branch of the Independent Order of St. Luke, a fraternal order that promoted Black economic independence, opened near River Hill, and this created an important hub of activity for the local Black community. Next, we have the Danville Riot, also known as the Danville Massacre in 1883. The biracial Readjuster Party gained control of the Virginia General Assembly in 1879 and of the Danville City Council in 1882. In October 1883, white citizens distributed the Danville Circular denouncing African-American political power. In response, a local readjuster official publicly condemned the circular on November 2nd. The next day, in the context of this political tension, an argument between a white man and two Black men escalated into a fight on Main Street, in which at least 5 men were killed. Democrats, blaming the violence on African Americans, won control of the General Assembly days later in the election, leading to the demise of the Readjuster Party and an end to Black political power in Virginia until the 1960s. Colored Rosemont in the city of Alexandria. The house pictured here at 1312 Whit Street is the only original dwelling that remains from the once thriving, predominantly African-American neighborhood known as Colored Rosemont. Virginia F.W. Thomas, a white real estate entrepreneur, inherited and purchased land in this area early in the 20th century and sold home lots without restrictive racial covenants, which was unusual at that time. By about 1950, many Black middle-class families lived in the neighborhood. In the 1960s, the city of Alexandria expropriated property in Colored Rosemont, compensated the owners, and constructed a public housing project undeterred by a lawsuit and vigorous opposition from the neighborhood. Arthur Taubman lived from 1901 to 1994. This is in the city of Roanoke. Taubman was a self-made businessman. He was born in New York. He moved to Roanoke in 1932 to acquire 3 Advance stores. When he retired as president of Advance in 1969, the company had grown to 54 stores. Later known as Advance Auto Parts, the chain expanded nationwide. Taubman was co-founder and chairman of Alliance Tire and Rubber Company, which opened in Israel in 1952 and became that country's largest exporter. During the World War II era, he signed hundreds of affidavits of support for European Jews to enter the U.S., claiming each as his cousin. Korean Americans in Northern Virginia, this would be in Fairfax County. The small community of Koreans in and around Washington, D.C. began to grow after the Embassy of the Republic of Korea opened in 1949 and the Korean War commenced in 1950. About 500 Koreans, primarily university students, lived in the region by the early 1960s. And then a wave of new arrivals followed the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965 which removed restrictions based on ethnicity. Many Korean Americans moved into the Virginia suburbs, and Annandale in particular attracted entrepreneurs in the 1980s with its affordable real estate and highways. Featuring stores, restaurants, professional services, churches, and civic groups, Annandale became a social and commercial hub for the community. Beulah, Marshall, Munford, Wiley, 1923 to 1987 in Buckingham County. Wiley, a 1941 Cumberland Training School graduate, was a Black healthcare pioneer. She led an intensive campaign to establish the Central Virginia Community Health Center, which opened in 1970. And this was the first community health facility in Virginia to be funded by the U.S. Office of Economic Opportunity, created in 1964 as part of President Lyndon Johnson's War on Poverty. The drive for community health care had emerged from the civil rights movement. The health center brought high-quality care to underserved families in Buckingham, Cumberland, and Fluvanna counties, and from there it expanded into a broad network of facilities serving tens of thousands of people annually. So that concludes our section on new markers, and I will ask for the board's approval of those as a block.
You, Dr. Lukes. Is there any discussion or questions that the board has related to markers 1 through 7 on our agenda?
I have a question, Jennifer. On the Malone Tavern, the original text has Mahone as the founder of the Virginia Normal and Collegiate Institute, which is now Virginia State University, but that's not in the edited text. I was wondering why.
Right, he was involved in the founding because he was a leader of the Readjuster Party, which was able to pass that through the legislature, but he personally was not individually a founder of the university.
I figured that. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else on the board? Any questions on these markers? All right. May I have a motion to approve and replacement, or are there replacement markers?
These are new markers.
They'll become the next.
Yeah.
Oh.
I move to
Oh,
approve
I'm
these
sorry.
7 new
Yes,
markers.
okay, thank you. Wrong part of the agenda. May I have a motion? Thank you, Tripp, for the motion. May I have a second? Thank you, Dr. Rutherford. Those in favor of putting forth markers 1 through 7, may I have an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? All right, those are approved.
Thank you so much. Next, we have the replacement markers. And we don't generally go over these individually, but we have 5 here. And the board has had a chance to review the updated text in the board memo that you received for the marker program. So these will be replacement markers covering Allegheny County, Bath County, Fort William, Botetourt County, Bishop William McHenry, City of Emporia, and Oakwood Cemetery Confederate section in the city of Richmond. So I ask the board to approve those as a block as well.
I've got one more question on this one too.
Yeah, no, please.
In the original text, it says Fort Man and a battle took place there, but it's not in the edited text.
For which one?
Allegheny County. I was just wondering, that's a pretty significant event or a historical site.
I don't think there was an issue regarding the historical accuracy of that. It's just that when we worked with the county to update their, county marker text that you see entering the county, that was not something they felt like emphasizing anymore. So we worked closely with county officials on developing the new text. And, every time we do that, we have to weigh what fits into the 700 characters. So this, what ended up in the text was the information that they wanted to emphasize.
Thank you.
Or the sponsor.
Yep.
Any other discussion related to the replacement markers 1 through 5? Can I have a motion to approve the replacement markers.
Moved.
Thank you, Dr. Basket. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Spivey, thank you. Can I have all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? None? Okay, that is, the replacement markers have been approved.
Okay, thank you. So next we have the applications under consideration, the art board cycle. And we received 14 applications for our October 20th deadline. And a committee of the HR staff scored those applications. And we are asking the board to approve those numbered 1 through 8 and to identify number 9 as an alternate for this group. So we do not have the text of these markers at this meeting. You'll be seeing the text in March. But we're asking for the approval of these topics.
Is there any discussion on these topics put forward for the March board cycle? Don't think so. All right. May I have a motion to approve the applications for consideration at the March board meeting as presented?
So moved.
Spivey, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Towns. Thank you, Dr. Lukes. Can I have, or all those in favor, please say aye. For
Aye.
putting these forward for the March agenda. Aye, thank you.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay, those are approved. Thank you, Dr. Lux. Now we will get an update from Joanna Wilson Green regarding state burial permits. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Joanna Wilson Green. I am an archaeologist and cemetery preservation specialist for the Department of Historic Resources, and I manage the burial permitting program for the agency. And I am here today to provide you with your quarterly update on permitting practices. This is for your information. There is no action needed. Just to recap, our permit was created by the Code of Virginia, Section 1-2305, which was enacted in 1989 and revised most recently earlier this year in response to HB 1157 to incorporate language that is specific to consultation with federally recognized tribes. We're guided by Administrative Code Section 17 BAC 5-10 at Sequela, promulgated by the BBHR, and every action we take is taken on your behalf. Since I wasn't here for the September meeting, you're actually getting a 6-month update, so buckle up. Between June 14th and December 12th, we have issued 13 burial permits on behalf of the Board of Historic Resources. 9 of these were anticipatory, meaning they were issued for projects for which purposeful disturbance of human remains was not proposed or expected, but for which the project proponents wanted just a little bit more protection in case the unexpected happened. The other 4 were for recovery, and I'll give you a little bit more information about those in just a second. But this brings the total number of permits issued for 2024 to for 23, with 8 projects extended and 15 closed following completion of permit terms. So it has been a very busy year. With regard to the recovery permits, one was issued to a private landowner to accommodate the relocation of a small late 19th and early 20th century family cemetery, which happily we determined had actually been moved prior to the land being sold in the 1980s, and no evidence for human burial was found. So that was a good outcome. One permit was issued to TC Energy for recovery of buried human remains on a large power station site, following the discovery of fragments of materials that had already been removed to the archaeological lab for analysis. This permit was issued in with the full support and the participation of the Monacan Indian Nation, and we remain in consultation with them and will continue to do so throughout the term of this permit. One was issued to Chesterfield County to accommodate the recovery and location of 12 unmarked graves and 1 iron coffin that were discovered during the road construction project. And the public process resulted in the identification of 10 potential descendants, and they have been instrumental in guiding us through this process and have selected a burial site for these individuals. That would probably take place in the spring. And the final permit was issued just before Thanksgiving. This is to accommodate relocation of 2 historic African American cemeteries outside Danville. And this was done at the request and with. And I know that was a lot, so if any of this sparks questions, I'll try and answer them. Mr. Johnny, you look like you can say something.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Green.
Sure. So I finish up with just the usual update on the ongoing project, in this case, the recovery of Civil War internments from the powder magazine at Colonial Williamsburg. The permit was issued following the discovery of 4 internments and the surgeon's pit that were behind and actually underneath the curtain wall. So the engineering involved with this project was almost as important as the project itself. And the biological analysis was determined that one of the internments represents a male in his 30s, another male in his late 20s, and the remaining 2 are males likely less than 20 years of age. The limbs of at least 2 and probably 3 people were found in the surgeon's pit. Strontium isotope and DNA analyses are ongoing, and we hope that will narrow down not only the geographical origins of these individuals, but possibly identify living relatives. And this has all been done in cooperation with a large group of stakeholders, which include local citizens, representative of Civil War organizations, and the U.S. Army Department of Mortuary Affairs. And they have guided and approved all of these processes and have selected a reinterment site for these individuals, and we expect them to be reburied. And for context, by the time these individuals are reburied, we will have been working on this project for about 3.5 years. So when we issue these permits, we don't just issue them and walk away. We issue them and then we stay involved with them until it's done. So.
Thank
Any
you.
questions? Have I overwhelmed you?
Not overwhelming, but both on this and the 3 in particular on the prior slide, just appreciate, as you mentioned, the staff just sticking with these things, but also just the emphasis on consultation. And I think that's helped to strengthen this program and have it be such a well-accepted program.
I appreciate it. I feel the program always has room to grow and evolve, and we're trying to make sure that the decisions that we make, we don't make, that we're following the wishes that are actually affected by these decisions. Glad to know.
That's a great way of putting it.
All right, and that's all I have for you. Thank you very much, and I'll look forward to seeing you next.
Thank you, Ms. Green. So our last course of business today involves new easement offers for consideration as presented by Kyle Edwards.
I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me. Good afternoon. Thank you to the board for being here this afternoon. In addition to our 3 new easement offers that we're going to go over, we also have a late addition of a reconsideration. So if it works for the board, I'll present the first 3 new easements to be considered together, and then we'll push to the reconsideration. So I'll begin with our 3 new easement offers. So the first easement to be offered to be considered today is the Deal Farm 2 tract located in Rockingham County, Virginia. This is an easement-only donation. The Shenandoah Battlefields Foundation is the applicant on behalf of the property owner, Victory Hill Land LLC. Property consists of 124.168 acres over 2 parcels and adjacent to the Deal Farm 1 tract and Miller Farm, already under easement with the board. Property lies entirely within the core of the Class East battlefield, which is giving a priority 2.2 Class B rating from the Civil War Advisory Commission. Priority 2 battle sites or those battlefields in relatively good condition with opportunities for comprehensive preservation, while those rated Class B are those with a direct and decisive influence on their campaign, in this case, the Valley Campaign of 1862. And I'll say, having been out there a couple of times now, this is a kind of a pristine rural landscape in Crosskeys and Port Republic as well. It probably looks very much like it did in the 19th century. Today, the property is an agricultural and residential use, with the eastern side of Port Republic Road used primarily as pasturage and for poultry production. This contains a small farm complex and infrastructure for the poultry farm, The western half is used for crop protection. It is partially underwood cover. Approximately 9 acres of the overall property where the poultry houses are located, as well as some other active agricultural buildings have been excluded from the easement, while the 1896 farmhouse and a small frame shed associated with it remain within the easement area. And this decision was made mainly to keep our easement provisions from conflicting with the active agricultural use. All the structures on the property have been determined to be non-historic and can be maintained or removed by the property. The Shenandoah Valley Battlefields Foundation will apply for an American Battlefield Protection Program grant and has been awarded Virginia Battlefield Preservation Fund grant to assist in the acquisition of the historic preservation space easement. Conveyance of the easement is a condition of the grants. The Easement Acceptance Committee recommends acceptance of the DO2 tract offer subject to the following conditions. One, the existing deed trust must be subordinated to DHR's easement prior to easement recordation. Two, the Shenandoah Valley Battlefield Foundation is required to work with the Shenandoah Valley Electric Cooperative to locate any existing recorded or unrecorded easements for 3 undocumented utility lines located on. The utility easements are unrecorded or do not exist. Shenandoah Valley Battlefields Foundation will work with the Shenandoah Valley Electric Cooperative and Victory Hill Land LLC to record new utility easements prior to the recordation of the DHR's easement. And 3, final review of the title work, title commitment, survey, draft easement, and other recorded or unrecorded documents affecting title to the property by the Office of the Attorney General. For this review, council may identify additional issues that require documentation or action. The next property we have today is the Three Amigos tract located in Mallertown, Virginia, Shenandoah County. The applicant for this easement again is the Shenandoah Valley Battlefields Foundation, who acquired the property in fee simple on April 26, 2024. Property consists of a single 51.31 acre open space parcel currently used for hay production. Previous owners intended to develop the property as a subdivision, but no construction ever took place. Three Amigos tract is historically significant because it is partially within the core and entirely within the study area of the Thomas Brook Battlefield, which has been given a preservation priority rating of 2.3 Class C by the Civil War Sites Advisory Commission. Sites with a priority rating of 2 are those that are in good condition with opportunities to preservation. While battlefield sites rated Class C are those that have observable influence on their campaigns. In this case, the Shenandoah Valley County, August to December 1864. Shenandoah Valley Battlefields Foundation will use the property for open space, agricultural, and battlefield interpretation purposes. It plans to install a 3,500 square foot gravel parking area in the western corner of the property around the Mallertown Road to facilitate public access. The foundation will be applying for an American Battlefield Protection Program grant and a Virginia Battlefield Preservation Fund grant to assist with the acquisition of the property. Conveyance of the easement to the board is a condition of these grants. The Easement Acceptance Committee recommends acceptance of the DOT for easement offer subject to the following conditions. 1, receipt of an amended agricultural lease that includes DHR's standard subordination language. 2, receipt of a revised or new boundary survey that includes DHR's standard survey requirements. And 3, final review of the title work, title commitment, survey, draft easements, and other recorded or unrecorded documents affecting the title to the property by the Office of the Attorney General. For this review, council may identify additional issues that require implementation or action. Our final new easement offer today is the French tract, located in Shenandoah County as part of the Fishers Hill Battlefield, with, again, the applicant being the Shenandoah Valley Battlefields. Property consists of 126.078 acres across 4 parcels that have been in agricultural and residential use since at least the late 18th century, which continue, and that agricultural and residential usage continues present day. The northern area of the property is generally flat and used for crop production. The southern area of the property features rolling terrain and is under forested cover. The agricultural landscapes includes the log and frame Volkhauser house, which was built between 1790 and 1810 with later 19th and 20th century additions. Stone outbuilding built around 1831. Bank barn built in the mid 19th century. A 20th century silo, a 20th century cooling and milk house, and a metal shed, and a frame tenant house from the first quarter of the 19th century. Shenandoah Valley Battlefields Foundation plans to stabilize and secure the Funkhauser House, stone outbuilding, within 1 year of the date of DHR's approval of the easement offer. Treatment offers for the remaining buildings will be established after DHR determines their eligibility pursuant to the Section 106 review process. The property also contains the Funkhauser family cemetery, which the foundation will preserve according to a cemetery management plan, maintenance plan developed by DHR. Aside from the historic farm complex, the property is significant because it's partially within or entirely within the study area of the Fisher's Hill battlefield, which has been given its preservation priority 1.3 Class B by the Civil War Sites Advisory Commission. It is also partially within the study area of the Cedar Creek battlefield, which has been given a priority 1 Class A from the Civil War Sites Advisory Commission. Since we haven't had another priority 1 today, priority 1 are those in critical need of action, and those rated Class A had a direct and decisive influence on the campaign and the outcome of the war. And those in Class B had a decisive influence on their campaign, but not necessarily the entire war. The Shenandoah Valley Battlefield Foundation acquired the property in 2022 and has recorded an agricultural lease and hunting license and indemnity agreement, both for the lifetime of the lessees and their minor children. The foundation has been awarded a Virginia Land Conservation Foundation grant and will apply for American Battlefield Protection Program grant to assist with the acquisition. Conveyance of the easement to the board is a condition of both of these grants. The Easement Acceptance Committee recommends acceptance of the friendly tract offer subject to the following conditions. 1, the Funkhauser House and stone outbuilding will be stabilized and secured to DHR satisfaction within 1 year of the date of board approval. 2, treatment of the remaining building structures. Buildings and structures in the easement shall be consistent with any determinations of eligibility for listing, historic registers per Section 106 review process associated with the American Battlefield Protection Program land acquisition grant. 3, Funkhauser Family Cemetery will be preserved and maintained according to a cemetery management and maintenance plan developed by DHR and incorporated into the easement by reference. 4, agricultural lease memorandum of which is recorded among the Shenandoah County land records must be revised or amended with DHR standards coordination language executed by all parties and recorded in the Shenandoah County Circuit Court. 5, subordination to DHR satisfaction, the existing hunting license memorandum of which is reported among the Shenandoah County land records. Such subordination may include in DHR's full discretion additional documentation coordinating the license and to the historic preservation and open space easement held by the board. And 6, final review of the title work, survey, draft, easement, and other recorded and unrecorded documents affecting the title to the property by the Office of the Attorney General. Per this review, council may identify additional issues that require documentation or action. And that is our last new easement.
Right. Is there any discussion on these easement offers? Any questions?
On that most recent one, Kyle, that one seems a little more complicated and I
Yes.
may have said it, and I may have missed it. What is the plan for because it looks like it has some independent resources in addition to land.
Yeah.
The house and the outbuilding, it says will be stabilized and secured. What is the plan?
Well,
You mentioned that, I missed it.
yeah, I can provide a little more clarity. The Funkhauser house, which would have been there at the time of the battle, as well as the one stone building, are not in impeccable shape. The house has been unoccupied for some time. And we wanted to be sure the Shenandoah Valley Battlefield Foundation had a plan to make sure these buildings didn't deteriorate further. And as we move forward with these, the other buildings on the property, while some of them may be historic, I don't think due to their the fact that they're probably pretty common in this area of the valley and their sort of dependencies to the larger farm complex. It's unclear whether those will be eligible and need to be stabilized as well. Is that correct, Megan? I would imagine it's possible the barn is, we just don't think.
But so stabilize and secure, I mean, that's all that they got to do. There's no further plan currently to use those buildings? Right,
Yeah.
They don't
okay.
stabilize it so that we can work with them towards the
And will the easement be recorded before or only after the end of that year, once we're sure they've done that?
It will probably take about a year to get the easement
Mhm.
done. We just didn't want any additional deterioration
Right.
during that time.
And is there any condition of the easement in terms of maintenance of the structures in the future? Okay, great.
Yeah, typically for any eligible properties, especially if in the battlefields, if they contribute, there will be protections for the building as well.
Make sure.
Yeah. And I think the big issue here with us with historic buildings and potentially historic ones, is we want to ensure that there's no demolition by neglect.
Well, that's why I'm asking the questions. Thanks.
I assure you, Carrie, Wendy, and Megan have worked a lot on
Yeah.
this, so they're happy. I know we're in a good place with them.
Any other discussion or questions? Thanks. Okay. May I have a motion to approve the easement offers for consideration 1 through 3 as presented by the staff?
So moved.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Pollard. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Dr. Rutherford. All in favor to approve the offers 1 through 3, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Okay, so those have been approved, 1 through 3.
So now I have one easement offer for consideration. It is the Elvin Glasgow House located in Monroe Ward, right down here. And I know staff are very pleased this one is back up for reapproval and hopefully it'll be moving forward in terms of that.
Can I ask one question? What, if you could define what reapproval means?
Oh, yes. So currently under our easement guidelines, once approved by the board, the easement is approved for 3 years. If we go through that elapsed time, then it has to come to the board for reapproval to assess if the conditions have changed or priorities have changed or program policies, any of those things. We'll also bring things for reapproval if there's a significant alteration to the easement. So has there been additional land added? Where there previously unknown resources that are going to cause some sort of an issue? Has there been a new request by the locality to, I don't know, build something like that? So this one, in this particular case, where it's a time issue rather than a changing condition or offer issue.
All right.
So as I said, our reconsideration today is the Elvin Glasgow House located in Monroe Ward. It was built in 1841 for tobacco magnate David Branch. And the house is a National Historic Landmark, as well as being on the Virginia Landmark Register and the National Register of Historic Places. It is significant both for its architecture and its association with the distinguished author Elvin Glasgow, who won the Pulitzer Prize for her 1941 novel, In This Our Life. Glasgow published more than 20 books, with much of her writing completed at this house. In addition to her literary success, she was a prominent women's suffrage activist, making the house a hub for both progressive political causes and the arts movements within the city. The Glasgow House was previously approved by the board on September 17, 2020, and again on September 15, 2022. At the time of the second approval, it was agreed that 2 easements would be required on the property. So it's actually 2 lots, one with the house and one with the adjacent parking lot. So one easement will be recorded in the house parcel and the other over the parking lot. And this is essentially to protect the view shed of the building and to maintain a height restriction on that adjacent lot. Since the last approval of this property, it has remained vacant and for sale since 2020. The property is under purchase contract right now and scheduled to close on January 17th, 2025. All the conditions from the board's 2022 approval have been addressed. The draft easement survey and title have been reviewed in consultation with the Office of the Attorney General. There have been no changes in the terms of condition since this last negotiation. As we discussed earlier, the bridge approval per easement program policy number 2, criteria for the acceptance of easements. Standard approvals by the board have an expiration date. In this case, the property was approved in September 2022, at which point we had a 2-year approval window instead of a 3-year. So this past September, approval expired, which is why we are back here today. The easement acceptance committee recommends the approval of the Ellen Glasgow House easement subject to the following condition or revised condition, which is the final review of the title work, scope commitment, survey, draft easements, and other recorded and unrecorded documents affecting titles to the property by the Office of the Attorney General. Per this review, council may identify additional issues requiring documentation or action. If you all have any questions on this, I can try to answer them or Megan.
I'm assuming that the potential home buyers or property buyers know that this easement is,
It's part of the transaction, so this
Okay.
will be part of the actual purchase.
okay,
Right, the same transaction.
And it's,
Yeah.
it's my understanding that the current owner wanted this sort of
Yes.
Right.
desire, and their desire to sell the property when the shorts.
okay. So it's kind of part of this, it's been a part of like the condition that we want this in place before we even sell it.
Mr. Pearsall had negotiated the easement, did everything, and has been vetting it with various property prospective buyers.
Got it.
And as part of it, they have to do.
Okay,
Pearsall will record this and then transfer.
awesome.
Does this expire like the previous one did after 2 years or
It is,
Your approval will, but by then the easement will be recorded.
recorded once it's recorded?
Yes.
yeah, and in this case, we're working on the 3-year window. As of December 2022, we went from 2 years to 3 years because we were doing this a lot for some of the more.
Took time sometimes to.
Any other questions? Great. Do I have a motion then to approve this easement offer for reconsideration as presented by the staff? Thank you, Mr. Basket, and second by Dr. Rutherford. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye.
Sorry.
None opposed. So this easement offer for reconsideration has been approved by the board. So,
And then before we let you go, we have one more announcement. Easements reported since our September meeting. We have one, and it's the Myers Hill Tract easement. This is actually one that the committee member Pollard remembers has been through a couple of times because of changing conditions and size and parcels. But it's a 70.32 acre tract located at the Spotsylvania Courthouse battlefield. And we were able to record this at the end of September 2024. The property is owned by the Central Virginia Battlefields Trust, and it's actually a pretty interesting property because there's a pristine archaeological house site on it that was actually burned by the Union Army before they left the location. So there's actually an open well on the property. You could drop a well down near the water, and the house is there, and also extensive earthworks that were built around it. It's really interesting. But I know the Central Virginia Battlefields Trust is a small organization that's happy to have this completed for their use. That's it for today.
great. Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Does anyone on the board have any closing comments at all they'd like to share? Anybody? No? All right. I would just like to wish everyone a happy holiday, happy new year. Looking forward to see everybody again in March. I'd like to potentially work with Director Langland on any topics for training in March. So if anyone, board members have any ideas too. There's a wealth of intricacies with historic preservation and the work of the board. So welcome any questions anyone has on topics for that. So that is all I have. Thank you for everyone's time today and the hard work of the staff. Appreciate it. Do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Moved.
So moved. All right. Thank you, Mr. Baskett. And do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, Dr. Rutherford. This meeting of the historic, or all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Aye. All right. We are adjourned. Thank you.